How's it going, everybody? Welcome in to another episode of Nasty Bunch and Beyond. I'm your host, Dalton Trigg. I am joined, as always, by my co-host, Drew Johnson. You can find both of us on X at Dalton_Trigg and at Coach Drew 33. And be sure to go to thetopmerch.myshopify.com and use our promo code NastyBunchPod to get 20% off your entire purchase. DJ, it's been a minute. We were going to try to record at the end of last week. We ended up having to push it a week because we had some stuff going on, some business end stuff going on, and now that it's official, we can come out and talk about it a little bit. But we are starting our new gig with Southern Miss Golden Eagles on SI, so Sports Illustrated. Brand new website. I'm going to be the publisher. DJ is going to be the top right, one of our top right. It's just me and him right now, but we are looking to build a staff as we go on. But pretty exciting stuff. We've covered the Mavs in that capacity for a long time, and we're jumping into it with Southern Miss media as well. So again, that's going to be Southern Miss Golden Eagles on SI. The podcast, Nasty Bunch and Beyond, and our Mavs podcast, Mavs Step Back. Both of those podcasts are going to be on the SI Podcast Network. I don't know the technical name of the network, but that was part of the reason why we couldn't record last week, because we were doing the back end transfer, RSS feed, all that good stuff. So it's been busy. It's been exciting, but I'm very ready to get started in this new chapter and to fully immerse ourselves in Southern Miss Golden Eagle coverage, which I'll be honest, DJ, I didn't think things would progress this quickly when we started this podcast back in October of last year, I believe, maybe late September, October. But I think it's going to be fun. I'm excited about it.
Yeah, man, it hadn't even been a full year, and I can't believe that we're already here. So, no, I'm very excited about it. I'm very excited to, get into the written aspect of media coverage of our Golden Eagles, and really delve deeply into the culture of Southern Miss, if you will. So yeah, like you said, I'm ready to fully immerse ourselves in this. So I'm excited to see where it takes us.
Yeah, and if you guys, if you want to get constant updates, which you can find us on Google too. But if you want constant updates of all the content we're going to be throwing out there, again, be sure to follow us on social media. And again, that's at Dalton_Trigg for myself, and then at Coach Drew 33 for my guy DJ. But good stuff coming. We're very excited about it. A couple of things we wanted to start off with before we get into the struggles of both men's and women's basketball right now is a small football note. Former football head coach Todd Monken, he is going to be the new head football coach for the Cleveland Browns. So it's his first NFL head coaching job ever. Shout out to Todd Monken. I think he's great. I think he's a very brilliant offensive mind. If they can just get him a legitimate quarterback, I think he could do some good things there. Now, the Cleveland Browns are the Cleveland Browns.
It's a huge if, Dalton. Huge if.
Yeah, it's kind of a tire fire at times with the Cleveland Browns. But,
yeah.
They on the defensive side, they have some positive. You got Myles Garrett, who is just an absolute monster. He just broke the NFL sack record this past year. So, you got that going for you on defense. But now if you can just get a quarterback in there and some offensive weapons to put up some points to pair with, that brilliant offensive mind that Monken has, I think he could have some success there. So that's a lot of ifs. It has to all come together for that to mean anything. But I think they have a really, really good guy and a smart guy at the helm there that can do some damage in a good way if they give him the tools needed. So I'm happy for Coach Monken.
Yeah, no, I've always liked Coach Monken. Going back to his days at Southern Miss, I've always liked Coach Monken. I'm a little surprised that we're at where we are, but given his comments in the past about not really wanting to be a head coach. But I guess whenever someone throws you a multi-million-dollar contract, you swallow what you want to do, and you take the money.
Yeah,
I'm not saying,
even if things go badly, it's like, hey, they're offering me a head coaching bag of money. Let me go ahead and take that.
and I'm not trying to be disrespectful or anything, but it's going to be very, very difficult at Cleveland because nobody's ever been able to do it at Cleveland. So, hopefully he's the first. But at worst, he gets to walk away with life-changing money. So, good for Coach Monken. I'm super happy for him. I'm super proud of him for stepping up to the plate in a really, I wouldn't say it's a negative situation, but it's a challenging one. So kudos to him. Happy trails.
How could we forget that the Cleveland Browns have Pro Bowl quarterback Shedeur Sanders on the team?
Oh,
How could we forget that?
not
Yeah,
with much
I
effort.
still don't know. The Pro Bowl has become so. And look, I'm not saying Shedeur Sanders might not, come out and develop and be a great quarterback going forward, but just based on what he did in his first year in the NFL, the limited amount of time he spent on the field and all that, I can't believe he made the Pro Bowl. But again, the Pro Bowl is not what the Pro Bowl used to be in
No,
years past. So
no. And, it's just hilarious hearing the name Shedeur Sanders and Pro Bowl in the same sentence because it just doesn't make a lot of sense to me. But you're right. The Pro Bowl is nothing like what it used to mean. And I don't think Sanders is going to be the answer for Monken.
Monken should get the band back together. Nick Mullins was the backup quarterback in Jacksonville
That
this
could
year.
be fun.
Yeah,
Yeah.
get Nick Mullins in Cleveland as your even if he's just a placeholder, starter until you get your true franchise starting quarterback. That'd be pretty fun. I mean, I could get with it. Nick Mullins is a very good quarterback. I
Yeah.
mean, I've always said that being a backup quarterback in the NFL is the best job in America because you get paid a lot more than some of the guys that are starting at other positions just because you're at the quarterback position, but you're also not out there getting your head torn off either. So
That's
it's
true.
it's one of those perfect situations for a professional player. But in all seriousness, though, I mean Nick Mullins is great, and I would love to see that. That's more wishful thinking on my part, but we'll see how it goes. I'm excited for Todd Monken. He did great things at Southern Miss. Wish he could have stayed longer. At least he stayed longer than Coach Huff did.
It's true.
So we'll always have that, and we made it to a conference championship game too. That was pretty fun, even though it didn't end the way we wanted it to at Western Kentucky. That was a great team. Ito Smith and Nick Mullins and all them. So okay, so we will jump into the basketball stuff now. We're going to talk more about baseball as we get closer to baseball season, which is about 2 weeks away. I have an interview with Coach Oz coming up. I got to sit down with him Monday, and we're still going through the editing process, production process, all that stuff. So that should be up. I'm not sure if we'll have it up by the end of this week. It may end up being the first of next week, but that is coming. A lot of good stuff from Coach Oz, about 25-minute interview. So be on the lookout for that. Basketball wise, though, DJ, both the men's and the women's teams, like I mentioned earlier, they're struggling. The men's team is 11-11. They were 11-7. They had put together some momentum, but then they went on a 4-game road trip, went 0-4. I was feeling so good when they were 11-7. I was thinking it was a possibility they could even go like 3-1 on that road trip. I was extremely wrong. That was obviously my rose-colored glasses, being put on when I thought that. But the men's team is back home tonight against App State at Reed Green Coliseum. They'll have another home game against James Madison on Saturday. Like I said, things have not been going well for them. I know you know, as a coach yourself, I mean, you probably have some more in-depth thoughts on this than I do, but just from me watching and seeing what's going on with this team, is it easy? How do I want to word this? Is it fair to say that the difference or the disparity in 3-point shooting with them and every other team they play is a big reason for why these losses are stacking up? Because I look at the last game specifically at Coastal Carolina, where Coastal Carolina shot 14 of 23 from deep, and we shot 4 of 13 from deep. So that's a 10 3-pointers made difference. That's 30 points difference just in 3-point shooting. And, you know, to end up losing by 18 on the road, you know, that seems like a pretty big issue. And it's not just that one game. There's been several games this year where teams have not only made a bunch of threes, but they've been pretty efficient doing it. They haven't taken a ton to make a ton. So what's the answer there? Well, before you answer that, let me go back. Is it fair to say that the disparity in 3-point shooting is the biggest issue for the men's team?
So it does, but not in terms of a disparity of points exactly. What it really impacts is the way you're able to execute your offense. You know, proper offense is all about spacing. I think Jay Wright said that offense is spacing and spacing is offense. And there's never been anything more true ever said. And whenever you're not able to space the floor with 3-point shooting, that clogs up everything. Defenses are going to pack it in, and you're not going to have any driving lanes. You're not going to have any post-up opportunities. You're going to have a lot of open shots from three, but if you're not willing to take them, you know, you're not going to be able to impact the game the way that you're going to want to impact it. And so it makes running offense incredibly hard. And the only remedy that I can really see for it is to be able to knock down some shots. And we just, you know, outside of a couple people, we just really haven't demonstrated the ability to do so. And defenses are capitalizing on it. You go and watch, I think I really noticed it in the Troy game. You go watch that Troy game. You know what they did? They packed the middle. They packed the middle. They didn't really bite on anything on the outside. And lo and behold, they blew us off the floor. The game was over, I want to say, by halftime, pretty much. So, and I'm not trying to be disrespectful or anything, but until we figure out the floor spacing issue, aka the 3-point shooting issue, it's going to be really hard for us to be successful come late February, early March.
Well, and I've always, I mean, I get it. This roster overall, they may not be the best 3-point shooting roster, you know, so to speak, but you have to take more to make more.
Yeah.
And I get it. I mean, I know you got Tyleik Weeks, who is an absolute dog in the paint. You know, he can get in the paint at will and score. You got you know, even when Isaac Tavares, before he was hurt, and when he comes back, he's very good at getting into the paint and, you know, scoring inside the 3-point arc. But you gotta shoot some more threes. Like we've gotten to the point now where it's like it doesn't matter how tough your defense is, and this is a tough, gritty group. Like they play some really excellent defense at times.
Oh, yeah.
But what I've seen, and you know this to be true, it doesn't matter how tough and gritty your defense is, how many stops you get at a certain point in the game. If your offense is consistently failing you, eventually you will get discouraged and tired on the other end, and it falls apart. Like you have to have a balance. Like it's great to be a tough, gritty team on that end of the floor, but if you don't have the scoring, it's going to fall apart at times. And that's what we've seen so often this season, especially when this team goes on the road. And I don't know the exact answer. I just know from my, you know, just looking at stats, you know, going down the list here, and we talked about this a little bit on one of our previous pods, but, you know, Shiante Tramble, for example, he, you know, 6'2" guard, 199. And so far this season, he has shot 18 of 39 from three. But you go down the box scores from each game, and he only shoots one per game, two per game, one, three. The only game where he shot more than 4 3-pointers was against Louisiana on December 18th, and he hit 3 of the 6, and ended up winning that game. He hit 2 of 3 versus Ole Miss. He hit 3 of 4 in the season opener against Buffalo. 2 of 4 at ULM on January 1st. 2 of 2 against Texas State. Why are we not getting guys like that more shots? It's a fair question to ask, because you don't just luck into shooting 46.2% from three. I don't care if it's limited time or not. You don't just luck into that. So he's obviously got something. We need to get that guy some more shots. Now, I'm not saying that fixes all of your issues, but it at least cuts down on that disparity a little bit when you're looking at what's happened in several of these games.
Well, I'm going to play coach's advocate here. So I don't really know, we don't really know what that guy looks like in practice, how he's shooting the ball in practice. And we don't really know how roles are defined right now. So it's hard for me to stone-faced say, this is what we should be doing, because we're not getting the whole story right now. Okay.
Yeah.
As a coach, you can only what's the word? You can only
control
players. Control is a pretty decent explanation of it, but you can only put players in positions based off of what they do in practice. And if he's not shooting like that in practice, it would be very hard for me to entrust that with him. But at this stage in the game, you've lost 4 in a row. It may be time to start taking some swings. And the reality is, some guys are bright lighters. Some guys only perform in game. They don't perform well in practice. And it ain't their fault. It's just the way things are. So it may be time to take a risk in that regard. But I really think that a lot of what you're seeing as far as the apprehension to shoot the ball for some of these guys who may have a higher percentage, they may just not be showing it in practice. And I don't know that for a fact. Well, there's no way to know that for a fact. I'm just
just a theory.
I'm just trying to, kind of perceptually look into Coach Ladner's mind, I guess.
Which brings me to my next point, because, like you said, you base decisions off of what you see in practice. But if there is inconsistencies there, maybe that has something to do with, for example, in several games this year, it seems like instead of there being 1 or 2 plug-in subs into certain lineups, it feels like at a lot of times it's like these mass sub lineups.
Yeah.
Keeping the bench unit together, and these, instead of just, maybe it would work good to keep the guys that are out there and plug just one guy in or something like that. And again, I'm not saying that, Coach Ladner, he knows way more about any of this stuff than we do, but it just seems like it's hard for a team. And we even talked about this with Ladner when we did our interview with him earlier in the year. It's just kind of hard for a team to find a rhythm, a consistent rhythm, if your lineup that you're playing, both starting and bench. What's the word I'm looking for? If you're playing 12 guys, for example, your rotation, that's the word I was looking for. Your rotation, probably needs to be around 8 or 9 players by this point in the season. So I feel like that probably has something to do with it too. But again, like you said, if you don't have enough confidence in what you're seeing in practice from those guys, it's kind of hard to do that.
So, and you kind of touched on this earlier. At some point in the season, we have, especially now, when we're basically in February, the conference tournament is pretty much a month away. we need to be trimming the rotation and we need to figure out who we're going to go with. And I know Coach said, we have so many guys that are so close to each other in terms of talent and output. I know that's hard, but eventually we do need to bite the bullet and just pick a group and go with it. Pick a rotation, pick a solid 8 guys and go with it. And, that's not to say that later on, if one of those 8 isn't producing, you can't plug and play somebody else. Nothing is set in stone, but it's very difficult to establish a rhythm, a game-to-game rhythm, if you're just mass subbing.
Yeah.
I used to be under that assumption where I would mass sub, and I noticed pretty quickly that we were losing something whenever we would do that. So you really need to have your rotation trimmed down to about 7 or 8 guys, and that's what you need to roll with at this state in the game. Because right now, I mean, what are we? We're 4-4 in conference, right? 5-5. We're 5-5 in conference. We need to make a push right now for just decent seeding in the conference tournament if we want to make a play to get into the NCAA tournament. Like, that has to happen right now. It's go time.
Yeah. There's 9 games left. So,
yeah,
it's it's getting close, and
we're over halfway through conference play. We got to do something.
And look, maybe Tavares comes back and you plug him in there for maybe the last couple games of the season. I don't know how severe of a fracture he had, but I think there was some belief that he could come back before the end of the season. If he comes back, maybe it clicks and you're able to make a run through the conference tournament. But you've seen how wacky the bracket is for the basketball Sun Belt tournament, right? Mm-hmm. Like instead of it being like, I'll have to show you this from last year's deal, but instead of it being like a traditional bracket, you have your seeds on one end, and they just make their way to the champion. This is like a straight line bracket, and it has some teams playing like 3 consecutive days in a row, I believe, or some crazy stuff like that. It's not a traditional bracket, and it makes it tougher for the lower seeds to advance all the way to a potential conference championship. So that just reinforces your point. Like, you got to get something going now, because we're at the point to where even if you win out, you're 20-11. That's not enough to get into the NCAA tournament, even if you win out, in my opinion. You're going to have to go into the conference tournament and make some noise. And your best chance of doing that at this point is getting Tavares back and winning enough games in these last 9 to where you have a little bit higher seeding in that Sun Belt Conference tournament, to where you're not just overburdened by the scheduling. So,
I mean, it would be, I don't want to say it would be impossible to win it as a lower seed, because it's been done before in various other conferences. I've seen it happen. The one that really comes to mind was a few years ago when NC State went all the way in the ACC tournament. And I know the structuring of that tournament's way different than the structuring of this one. This one's just wonky. But it would be very, very difficult for us to win the conference tournament as a lower seed. So, and it may be the wrong choice, but it's at least a choice. Okay, we need to make a choice on what our rotation is going to be, and we need to ride with it. And if it's wrong, it's wrong. But in my opinion, wrong is better than indecisive. We've got to make a decision. Have to.
Yeah. And look, I mentioned the women's team too. They're like in the same boat as the men's team right now.
Very similar.
They're facing some midseason adversity. They've now lost 4 in a row. They're 11-10 on the year. Only 4 of 6 in conference right now. And the last one was just an absolute heartbreaker against Georgia Southern, where they were down by a bunch, came back, and still lost the game by 3, 70-67. But look, I believe in this team. I think they've got the talent. I think that Coach Bilderback definitely knows what she's doing, and I think she's going to build something great in Hattiesburg as far as women's basketball goes for the next several years. But what has to happen with this team right now to get them over the hump? Because, like I said, they're pretty much in the same boat as the men's team. But I'll be honest, DJ, I think there's a higher ceiling for this specific basketball team, the women's basketball team, than the men's, and that they're just in a funk. That's how I feel about it. But I mean,
Yeah.
what do you think the women's team has to do to get back on track?
So just looking at the numbers and looking at what I've watched, number one, it's actually more similar than Um, you know, if we go to overall stats, let me pull this up real quick just so I'm not spitting nonsense. So their 3-point percentage overall is 32% as a team. That's not bad. But whenever you go to conference, it takes a nosedive to 26% as a team. So you're having a very similar issue with not being able to properly space the floor because you're not a threat from out there right now. Okay. So that needs to change. The other thing that really jumps off the screen, this may be the biggest thing though, and I think this is probably what Coach Bilderback would say is the biggest thing right now, is the assist to turnover ratio. We have a 0.6 assist to turnover ratio right now. So let me break that down for you. That means for every one assist we get, we have 6 turnovers, right? So let's go to point differential, right? So right now, our point differential, the scoring margin isn't that bad. It's minus 2.5. But if you look at points off turnovers for the opposition, people are averaging nearly 20 points per game off turnovers. 20 points per game. We're killing ourselves.
That's
And
tough.
Coach Bilderback will tell you the exact same thing I'm telling you. You cannot win games if your assist to turnover ratio is in the negative, and if you're giving up more than 10 points per game as far as off turnovers are concerned. You just can't. So we need to tighten up, how we take care of the ball. And I think that solves about 85% of our problems. It's just taking better care of the basketball. Rebounding isn't bad. Defensively, we're doing pretty good. We're averaging 7.5 steals per game. We're getting 17.5 points off turnovers ourselves. So, we're mitigating a lot of that just by the havoc we're causing on the defensive end. But whenever you're giving up 20 points per game off turnovers, it's so hard to overcome that. So hard. So that's my take. We need to quit turning the ball over.
Especially on the road. I mean, you don't need to turn the ball over at any time because you're just giving away points at that point. But, I mean, especially on the road in conference play, it is tough to win a conference game on the road. And when you do something like that, you're just giving away, what'd you say, it was over 20 points off of
nearly. It's 19 point. Hold on.
Yeah, so I mean, essentially though, 20 points off of turnovers. That's
19.2 points per game.
Yeah, and you look at some of the scores, and it's like, man, that would have that's a big difference.
The funny thing is, so we're giving up 19.2, we're scoring 17.5, and our point differential is minus 2.5.
Yeah,
we're close. If we can just quit turning the ball over, we'll actually be running people out of the gym.
Yeah, and
we're killing ourselves.
Look, I think it's a good thing to have a little midseason adversity. Now, I hate that they're going through it right now, but like I said, I mean, I fully believe in the squad. I believe in Coach Bilderback. I think she's doing a great job so far, and she's going to continue to build this into completely her program, over the next several years. But I think they can flip the switch, and if you're going to have adversity, this is the time to have it, because next time they hit, if they turn it around, flip the switch like we know they can, and you get to tournament time and you start to face a little bit of adversity, then it's like, oh, we've been here before. We know what to do. And that can propel them to greater heights once they get to that point. So I'm excited to see how it goes. I do want to bring this up because we talked about the Sun Belt Conference tournament, and I got this screenshot I'm just going to share. Look at this.
Gosh.
It's insanity.
That's horrendous.
It's insanity.
So, guys, we need to both of these teams really need to turn it on right now so that we're not at the bottom of this bracket, because it would be I'm not going to sit here and tell you it's impossible. All things are possible, but it would be very, very difficult for us to climb the rungs of such a crazy bracket.
You would have to, if you started at the bottom of the bracket
Oh my
and you
God.
made it all the way to the championship game, you would have been playing 7 games in 7 days.
There's no way, dude.
There's no way. It's built, the way that tournament is built is to smother the lower seeds from making any kind of Cinderella run. So yeah,
Well,
you need to at least get to that midsection.
so let me ask you this. Do all teams in the conference get to play in the conference tournament, or just like the top I don't know, 75%? Let me look at how many games are.
I don't know. Look, I'd be lying if I told you I knew the exact answer to this. I think at least I think all teams make it except maybe like the bottom 2, but I'm not 100% sure on that. But still, I mean, I've never seen anything like this. And I remember on social media last year when this came out, like they were just the Sun Belt was getting roasted by everybody that that was looking at it.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, yeah, you can't be on one of those lower 4 seeds and have any legitimate shot of making it all the way to the Sun Belt championship game. But we'll see. I'm going to go tonight. Reed Green. I'm going to watch this the men's team take on App State, and see if there's improvements from some of the things we've seen on the road that didn't go well. Because I mean, look, I hate to be a downer because you know me, I'm usually more optimistic than anything else. I thought we were going 3-1 on that road trip. We just went 0-4 on. But if we don't start showing some real improvement in all phases, at least like little tweaks here and there, getting a little incrementally better at this point in the season, it's getting close to do or die time. Like if we don't fix it now, there's a good chance that we just are what we are. And I don't want to believe that, but we're getting close to that point.
We're beyond incrementally better. Okay, we need to flip the script straight up, and we need to start winning ball games because it's go time. I mean, it's code red right now. Like we have got to flip the script, and we have got to win as many of these last 9 as possible. Otherwise, we're going to be buried at the back end of that bracket, and it's going to be rough. I'm not going to say it's going to be impossible, but 7 games in 7 days. I mean, if we were to win out, they would write a book about it because it would. I mean, it'd be literally 7 days of hell.
Yeah,
because it would be ridiculous.
I don't think there'd be anything. The only thing that I can think of that would be like on the same level of just being like, just impossible, and you're watching it live happen. And it's not the same thing because it's 7 complete games in a week's time. But you remember that game between it was Syracuse and who was it? UConn back in the day.
Yep, Hashim to beat versus
7 or 8 overtimes.
Yeah, so UConn had Hashim to beat. I want to say they had Kimball Walker. Syracuse had Jeremy Grant, I think. He was good, and they also had. Yeah, they had Johnny Flynn. Did they have Eric Devendorf there too? Devendorf was nasty.
Maybe.
Devendorf was good. Really good college player. And I remember being up till 1 a.m. watching that game.
Now that again, that was just one game, but it's kind of like that one game is like a microcosm of what the Sun Belt tournament would be if a bottom feeder team made it to the championship game. So, well, we'll see how it goes. Some of my fire, from how the teams were playing early on, I can't lie. I mean, some of it has dimmed just because they've hit this midseason wall, and they've got to find a way to get back over it. But we'll see. There's a couple weeks left. We'll see how it goes. Baseball will be starting at some point here in the near future too, and that's exciting because they're nationally ranked, and there's a bunch of hype around the program, given how win 40 games seemingly every season and go into regionals, hosting regionals, and all that. But I really would like basketball to show us something here and just don't roll over. don't roll over and give up. Like, just find a way to push through and make this, respectable end to the season, and then go into tournament time and see what happens. But guys, that's going to do it for another episode of Nasty Bunch and Beyond. Like I mentioned earlier, I do have a interview with Coach Oz that we'll be putting out either late this week or sometime early next week. I'm not 100% sure when that's coming out, but it's something really good to look forward to, especially if you're as excited for baseball season as I am. So we appreciate y'all coming in and listening every single week. Be sure to like, rate, and subscribe on all your favorite podcast platforms. Leave us a review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. That really helps us out as independent creators. It helps us build on this momentum we've started at the end of last year. And again, be on the lookout for our content that will be over at Southern Miss Golden Eagles on SI that we will be cranking up here shortly. The site's live. We've got our author profiles set up. Now we're just taking care of a few technical details so we can get the posting stuff on there. But guys, we appreciate it. Y'all have a great rest of your week. Have a great weekend, and we will see you next time.
Thanks, guys.